Are you looking for the best 2024 NFL best ball rankings and advice around? Then get ready for the NFL Week 4 IDP Plus Best Ball Podcast. Welcome back to the Draft Lab. I'm Joel Worth, and this is the IDP Plus Best Ball Show. It is Week 4. Week 3 was an adventure, but we're going to move on. Better times are ahead. We got a lot to talk about. A lot of cool stuff on Underdog going down. They just released, just today, probably yesterday as you're watching this, just released the Best Ball Resurrection. So if you didn't get enough Best Ball Mania, there's another Best Ball Mania style contest. This one will start, the drafting is open. It will start week 6. So you've got about a week and a half to get in there and get your teams drafted. Similar style, similar layout, 12-person drafts, 18-player rosters, same scoring as Best Ball Mania. And $30,000 first prize and much better advance rate than regular Best Ball Mania. 2 of 12 in each league advance to the playoffs, then 1 of 5, 1 of 5, and a 188 seat final. So really good advance rate, and $10, not as much as a regular Best Ball Mania. So that should be fun. Definitely want to get some of those in. I'm really enjoying doing the Battle Royales right now and the Wildcats and stuff like that, the weekly stuff. So not going to totally switch off of that and do the Best Ball Resurrections, but I will get some in probably, Sundays when there's no weekly contests. I'm out walking the dog, something like that. I'll try and jam some drafts in, but definitely not going to max that out. But something I do want to get involved in because it should be fun. Just seeing how much things have changed between 3 weeks since the end of the preseason and now. So that should be fun. And I've also been doing a lot. This week I kind of started my battle royales on drafting on Monday, and I think that provides a nice advantage. You get some pretty unique teams, roster builds that you're not going to get later in the week once we're more sure of things. Just more unique rosters, more unique builds. And so you don't need to necessarily kind of dig down and get your differentiator picks because you can make some pretty unique rosters, and then you can kind of save those for when you get to the back end of the week and ADPs are more locked in, projections are more locked in, and your teams start to look kind of the same depending on where you're drafting. So really enjoying that, and we'll see. Hopefully that turns our luck around because did not have a great week 3, but something I want to try more going forward is to get the early start on the best ball drafting. So let's talk about week 4 coming up. Another 2 Monday night game slate. So the main slate is down to 10 games again. So teams not playing on the main slate: Dallas, the New York Giants, Buffalo, Baltimore, Tennessee, Miami, Seattle, Detroit. Some good offenses in there. Obviously, Dallas takes CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott out of the equation. Malik Neighbors was going to be, I think, everyone's default number 1 overall pick maybe this week, but he is off the slate. So got to do the Thursday night games to get some Malik Neighbors action. Buffalo, the 3rd straight week that they are off the slate. Baltimore coming off their big game Sunday against Dallas. Big game for Derrick Henry. He's off the slate along with Lamar Jackson, the tight ends there. Tennessee, don't think we're going to be missing much there, but Miami, we'll see what happens. Does Tyler Huntley get a job? It's got to be someone better than Skylar Thompson. So they're off the slate. And then Seattle and Detroit, 2 good offenses there that have been productive so far. Again, it's another not an elite slate of offenses. Let's talk about it. There's 1 game total over 50 this week. That's Washington, Arizona. Should be one of the more productive games of the season, potentially. But 8 teams this week with implied team totals under 20 points. That is terrible. The Rams on the road, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Denver, New England, the Chargers, and then Cleveland and Las Vegas. They're playing each other. So, yeah, just terrible, terrible. These teams just don't want to score. They can't score. They don't want to score, like the Chargers, Pittsburgh, teams like that. They just want to play defense and try and run the ball and kill clock. Offense is just so down. It's so depressing. It's not fun for fantasy. It's not fun for DFS. It's not fun for drafting, but we got to make do. We got to work around it, right? It's not going to stop just because teams aren't scoring. We got to do better. We got to refine our processes. We got to be better. So, other thing, the weather. Shout out to all our friends in Florida, in the Southeast. We got a hurricane bearing down on them. We'll see. It's supposed to be pretty bad. Doesn't sound very promising. So, we'll see how that affects the game in Tampa Bay. Again, Philly's in Tampa, so you've got some big name players. We'll see whether A.J. Brown, DeMonta Smith can get back, but Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley is going to be the number one pick in most drafts this week. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Baker Mayfield. Got a lot of big players in that game. That's a high over-under total for the week. So we'll see. Will it be a sloppy field? Will it be bad weather? To be determined. But right now we don't have much info to go on. There is some good news. A few teams that have high implied totals. I know it exists. Cincinnati at Carolina coming off the Monday night game. The Monday night loss to Washington. Pretty embarrassing. So, and their defense looks pretty bad. So, chance to put up some points in that game. The Houston Texans at home against Jacksonville. Again, Jacksonville's coming off the Monday night game. Arizona has the highest implied team total of the week at 27. They are hosting Washington. Washington back-to-back road games. Again, coming off that Monday night game. And the San Francisco 49ers trying to bounce back after 2 straight losses. They are hosting New England. So a lot going on there. Good offense, bad offense. We'll see how that game plays out. Could drag things down. You never know. So how are we going to adjust to this new environment, this low-scoring environment? 3 words. Volume, volume, volume. All I care about. I care about volume more than I care about matchups. That's the way it's going to go. It has to go because we have to take the volume that we know is going to be there and we have to utilize it because there's just no way around it. It's like things are so bad that we just have to chase the volume. So, and that's why Saquon Barkley is going to be the number 1 player this week because he has such a defined role, such a heavy role with the injuries in the passing game that we just have to take that volume and run with it. And that's all we can do. So speaking of that, let's get to our rankings for this week. You can see that at the top, I've got a couple running backs. Kind of big picture, I am wanting to draft running backs early, I think, if possible, because I don't like the running backs at the back end. I like the receivers at the back end. In these 6-person drafts, I like the receivers at the back end a lot more than I like the running backs. So I think there's some really good options at the back end of the receiver pool. Rome Odunze got 11 targets last week going against the Rams defense, which has been really terrible all year. So I like Rome Odunze, I like DJ Moore in the same game. Those are 2 guys who sometimes get drafted, sometimes you don't see them get drafted in these early battle royale drafts. So Amari Cooper, so we'll get to those in a second, but I just like the back end receiver options more than I do the running back options. So I'm leaning, even though, I may like Jamar Chase more than Alvin Kamara straight up. I'm just kind of obviously, I want to spread out my exposures and everything, get some Chase as well, but kind of in a vacuum, I kind of want to look to the receivers early this week, or excuse me, the running backs early this week, because I like the top end running backs more than I like the top end receivers. And I like the back end receivers more than I like the back end running backs. Okay. So top of the list, clear top 2, Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall. I was taking Breece Hall number 1 early in the early drafts, but I've kind of come around to Barkley. Just like I said, it's the volume. Breece Hall is kind of splitting work with Braylon Allen. Denver's run defense was pretty bad in week 1, gave up a ton to Kenneth Walker, but they've been really kind of okay since then. So, Tampa's without Vita Vea. if he comes back, I think that's pretty questionable. So Saquon Barkley is just getting so much of the workload in Philadelphia. And we talked about AJ Brown's questionable. Devonta Smith took a terrible concussion. He's probably not going to play. He is the offense right now. He and Jalen Hurts are the entirety of that offense. So I think Saquon's just a pretty clear number one for me this week. And then Breece Hall is going to be second. And then we move on to now you get the receivers involved. Kamara and Bijan Robinson are in the next group of running backs. I do like, obviously Jamar Chase had a breakout game Monday night, now goes to Carolina. Justin Jefferson, I'm a little bit nervous about. You see the Packer picture behind me. This is Jair Alexander's Super Bowl, right? He loves the ability to go one-on-one with Justin Jefferson and shut him down. And he did that 2 years ago. Remember, in 2022, Justin Jefferson had that great season, league-winning season, and then in the fantasy championship week 17, Jair Alexander shut him down. I think he held him to one catch or something like that. Just totally took him out of the game. So that's a matchup that makes me very nervous. But I'm certainly going to want some exposure. He's certainly had games where he's destroyed the Packers, no question about that. But that does make me a little nervous. Rashee Rice, just what more can you say about the guy? He's right there with Nico Collins in those kind of receivers who have taken that step up into that top tier. And Marvin Harrison's right there with them. Great matchup with Washington this week. Again, Washington playing their second straight road game, going all the way to Arizona cross country, coming off a Monday night game where they had basically a track meet of a game. First game since 1940 with no punts and no turnovers. So crazy game. You got to think that defense is going to be really tired. So like the Cardinals a lot this week, and it's obviously why they have the highest implied team total. Then we're going to slide back over to the running backs. Jordan Mason. Again, we talked about that game script with the 49ers and New England. I think that's going to be a route for San Francisco. I don't think that's going to be close. New England's got the extra rest after playing on Thursday, but they've got to go all the way across country again, all the way out to San Francisco to California, make that West Coast trip. So that's rough. And I think that offense just got exposed by the Jets on Thursday. So I don't think that's going to be much of a game. So if you're talking the 49ers players you want, I think it's Jordan Mason, because I think there's going to be a lot of, kind of dead time in the second half that they're going to want him to kind of close out the game. So I do like Jordan Mason. Again, I expect a lot of volume there. Kyren Williams, like that matchup against the Bears. Like the Bears were really good run defense, but they were last year. They were early, but gave up. They get gashed by Jonathan Taylor last week. So are they that as good as we expected them to be? Not sure. And again, it's volume. Kyren Williams is the Rams offense with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua out. We talked about last week with Jordan Whittington, Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, which one in DFS was going to be your cheap option. Turned out it was none of them. It was just all Kyren Williams. The cheap option was on the other side, Juwan Jennings. But so none of those receivers stepped up. Colby Parkinson, nothing in the passing game really stepped up. It was all Kyren Williams in that offense. So volume. And then one more running back that I really like this week. It might be the cheat code for week 4, and that's Aaron Jones going back to Green Bay. Got to think he wants to put on a good performance. He's healthy. Want to use him while he can. Had that week 2, Ty Chandler kind of matched him with carries, but again, week 3 when it was Houston, when chips were down, it was kind of all Aaron Jones, and I don't think that's going to stop this week. Again, they're going to want to give him the opportunity to get a little bit of revenge on the Packers. So personally hoping it doesn't happen, but tough to see it not happening. He's so versatile. They're using him in the passing game. They're using him in the running game. He's scoring touchdowns, so he's healthy. You got to use him while he can. I think he's going way too late in the early drafts. Now you get to the point where you can talk about taking a quarterback or a tight end. So let's start at the quarterback position. Kyler Murray, again, that game script with Washington should work out fantastic for him. Just can't think that's not going to be a shootout, that they're not going to put up a bunch of points. He's got Marvin Harrison. A little worried about, I'm concerned about Trey McBride. I'm not drafting him right now because of the concussion. Again, just like Devonta Smith took a nasty hit. His wasn't dirty like Devonta's, but still just a nasty hit with Brian Branch. So pretty not confident that he's going to play this week, but still terrible Washington pass defense. And then that's going to be a tired team, a tired defense, a tired secondary. You got to think that the Arizona Cardinals are just going to put up a lot of points, especially through the passing game. So Kyler Murray's my QB1 this week. Jaden Daniels, my QB2, same game, opposite side. They're going to have to chase points. And I think he's probably their best weapon. And Arizona's run defense is not good. So I think you're going to see a lot of Jaden Daniels running the ball this week after his kind of breakout performance on Monday night. And then Jalen Hurts, like I said, he and Saquon Barkley are the offense. So I think they're going to rely on his feet quite a bit. I get opportunity for some, maybe push stuff again, score some touchdowns. And it's Tampa's pass defense is not very good. Kind of hope that you get one of A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert. That's why I've got him ranked below Kyler Murray and Jaden Daniels. I don't know what that passing game is going to look like. Is it all Saquon Barkley? Is it Dallas Goedert? Not sure. But, still, I think Jalen Hurts is too important to that team to take him out of the offense and just be kind of run heavy like Green Bay has been with Malik Willis. I don't think Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni are going to go that far. So pretty clear top tier of quarterbacks that I'm okay playing unstacked. I'm okay playing these guys naked. Kyler, Daniels, Hurts. I'm okay running those guys out without a stack partner. Moving over to the tight end side, there's only two that I'm interested at all in taking outside of, the first or inside the first 4 rounds, and that's Travis Kelce and Brock Bowers. Tight end is such a wasteland. It just seems really hard to take a player early in these drafts. And I think that was the downfall of a lot of people in week 3 is, we were drafting Trey McBride early. We were drafting Bowers early, drafting Kittle early in the week before he got hurt. And obviously none of them performed. Just didn't happen. Bowers had a down game. The entire offense was down. Really disappointing for the Raiders. And then Trey McBride didn't do much before he got hurt. So it's really hard to kind of justify making those early picks to differentiate yourself if the guys who are differentiating aren't separating. They're not giving you any more value than, the tight end you can take in round 6 of the draft. So really struggling to take a tight end early this week. Then you go down from there. I think it's a pretty good tier down to Dallas Goedert. Again, I need to let my personal bias go. I'm not a Dallas Goedert fan in general. In season-long managed fantasy leagues, I'm not a Dallas Goedert fan. But again, very good chance that neither A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith plays. So he's going to be, the number 1 target. He goes from the number 3 target to the number 1, and maybe the only reliable target in the passing game. So I think he's a pretty clear 3, but a tier down from Bowers and Kelce. I think Kelsey's got a chance to bounce back. We should talk about him for a second. The routes are there. He just hasn't been getting the targets. And again, he's playing the Chargers this week. Derwin James suspended. We'll see how that plays out. He's appealing the suspension. But Kelsey's had either monster games against Chargers or basically 0 games against Chargers. And so if you've got that upside to have that monster game, I think you have to be in play. Just because if you can differentiate yourself from the tight end field, like last week with Dallas Goedert, who had that big game, didn't score a touchdown. His one big play was basically because 2 Saints ran into each other somehow on defense. But Dallas Goedert was in a lot of winning lineups last week because he was the only kind of tight end that really separated from the pack. So if you have that opportunity, you have to be interested in that. So that's why I'm interested in Kelce this week. Not forcing it in any way, but I do want to have some exposure to that upside. Now we'll just go down, talk through the other tight ends. There's no way I'm running a 2 tight end lineup this week. No chance. Tyler Conklin playing Denver. Denver gave up some production to Cade Otton last week, so you got to assume that Garrett Wilson's going to get the Pat Surtain treatment. So that's going to leave Tyler Conklin basically in the passing game. And Aaron Rodgers was looking his way quite a bit on Thursday night against New England. So I think there's potential for volume there. Pat Fryermuth, again, matchup based. I don't like any of these guys, but the matchup, Indianapolis's defense made Cole Kmet look like a world beater last week. So you got to think Fryermuth gets an opportunity, especially with the injuries. Where it sounds like Najee Harris is going to play, but Jalen Warren's highly questionable. So Fryermuth's going to be probably big part of the Pittsburgh offense. Kyle Pitts, it's not happening. I don't get it. It's not happening, but it is what it is. He's draftable in the 6th round if he's hanging around. Just because Kyle Pitts isn't doing anything, but nobody's doing anything. None of these tight ends are doing anything right now. So, if you take him for the upside, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world if you get him late because nobody else is doing anything. It's not like you're taking 5 points from your tight end and then everybody else is getting 15. It's just nobody's separating themselves. So, Cole Kmet, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz I'm only in a stack with Jaden Daniels. If I want to get a stack partner late, 6th round stack partner, it makes some sense. Got to talk about the injured guys. Right now, I'm not drafting any of them because I don't think any of them are going to play this week. Obviously, the swap is an option, but I think there's some other places I would rather use that. None of these guys, I'm like, if I take an A.J. Brown share, I'm not going to take a Trey McBride. If I take a Jordan Love, we'll talk about in a second, I'm not going to take a Trey McBride because, you can only swap one player. So the injured options, again, I'm not taking them right now unless they fall late. I did get a Kittle in the 6th round today. So that's okay as a swap option. If I draft 5 healthy players, so McBride, Kittle, Evan Ingram, David Njoku, I don't expect any of them to be back. Haven't heard anything on Kittle. So I personally don't expect them, so I'm not drafting a lot of them. But if they fall, like McBride's just not falling to the 6th round. He's going in these early drafts in the 4th or 5th. So maybe we'll see later in the week if, people get off of him, if, he's not practicing on Wednesday, Thursday, and we don't get official word that he's still going through the protocol. We don't know. I think he's going to start falling. People will be less likely to take him early like they are now. So I'll get some exposure that way, I think, probably at the back end of the week. Or we'll know that he cleared protocol and he's going to play. So, and then we'll draft him a little bit more heavily. But right now, kind of hands off on all those injured tight ends. So let's go through the next tier of receivers. Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Godwin, Steph Diggs. Evans nervous about the game script, or not the game script, but the game conditions in Tampa. But Evans, he's had 2 down weeks, but 17 targets combined in the 2 games against Philly, regular season and playoffs last year. So he was a big part of their offense. Chris Olave got back into the offense against the Eagles last week. I don't expect that's going to change. I think he's going to, all guns a-blazing from here. I think he's going to go back to being the number 1 option in that New Orleans passing game. Brandon Ayuk, I think they want to get him going, and I think that's a game script where he's going to be able to. But, again, if they get out to a big lead, I think it's just going to be Jordan Mason sitting on the ball for the, most of the second half. So I don't I think there's opportunity for a good game. I don't think there's a ceiling game there for Brandon Ayuk. But I do think they're going to want to get him some targets. They got to get him going, right? Debo's out. Haven't really heard any word that he's coming back. So I think he's going to be the focal point of the passing offense at least. And then Godwin, same thing as Evans. Nervous about the game conditions, but bad Philadelphia secondary. So I like those matchups. And then Steph Diggs going against Jacksonville, team that, man, just bad secondary, bad team. So like Steph Diggs as well as Nico Collins, right? I like both of those guys this week. I don't hate the Nico Diggs, CJ Stroud super stack. I'm going to want to get some of those into my portfolio this week. Just because I think that's a game where Texans could run up points just like Buffalo did on Monday night. Then dropping down to the next tier of running backs, you've got Josh Jacobs. Again, volume. I don't think that even with Jordan. I expect Jordan Love to come back this week. We'll talk about him in a second. I don't think they're going to go back to the heavy pass offense right away. I think they're going to want to protect Jordan Love as much as possible, and I think they're going to want to, they've ran some really creative concepts, and I think they're going to want to keep doing that. So I don't think Josh Jacobs' workload is going to drop back to even like normal. I still think it's going to be elevated. It came back a little bit last week, but I think that had to be expected, right? Just because of the massive workload he carried in week 2. I think there was naturally going to be some kind of give back to that workload, and Emmanuel Wilson did a good job with it. So, yeah, but I think this is a really important game, big division game, home game, game the Packers really are not going to want to lose. So I think, all guns a-blazing with Josh Jacobs back to that heavy workload. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get between 20 and 25 touches. I expect big volume from him. Jonathan Taylor, I hate this matchup. Steelers defense is so good, completely shut down J.K. Dobbins. I think they're going to focus on the run game and force Anthony Richardson to beat them, and I don't think he can. So I think this is a terrible game script for Taylor. So I'm really kind of avoiding him early. James Conner, just because Washington's a pass funnel defense, but again, I think he can get some work done in the passing game, and they're going to put up a lot of points. There's just no way that doesn't happen. So, like Connor this week as well. Najee Harris, again, I don't love that game script. I don't know that Indianapolis can keep up. I think that might be a blowout for Pittsburgh, but Jaylen Warren's hurt, really questionable. Sounds like they would prefer he doesn't play. And Najee Harris had an arm injury, but sounds like not a big deal, and he's going to start. So I think there's opportunity for big volume there. Probably expect he's going to get in the end zone at some point here. So another guy you can get late that I kind of like if I get into a draft where I take receivers early, then Najee Harris is going to be a guy I'm looking at the back end. Brian Robinson Jr., again, game script. Sounds like Austin Eckler's in the concussion protocol as well. So if he's got that backfield to himself, then he's a very attractive option. Travis Etienne, he's going to get goal line carries. I don't love it. Again, this is the back end where I don't really like things, and this is where I want to get my running back early. And then Zach Moss, again, I think that's going to be a heavy pass script for Cincinnati, but again, I don't want to overthink the Carolina Panthers. I don't want to overrate what they did in week 3 and just think that they went from a terrible offense to a great offense, and that's the way they're going to be. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to come back to earth quite a bit. And since he's desperate for a win, they're going to go back to eventually, I think they'll put a beating on Carolina, and at some point in the second half, it's going to be a Zach Moss game. So again, don't love those options, but and like I said, that's why I want to attack running backs early if I can. But some guys who have a chance. Let's talk about the quarterbacks, the second tier of quarterbacks, the guys that I only want to stack with. Patrick Mahomes, I would stack with Kelsey, or if I get a Rashee Rice share, cool with that. CJ Stroud, again, with Nico Collins and or Steph Diggs, good with that. Joe Burrow, I like Chase is my number 1 receiver this week, so happy to stack him with Chase. These are guys that I don't really want to take naked because I think you're just going to get boxed out by the stacks. If you take a Joe Burrow, you're going to get boxed out. There's just no way that he's going to have the productive output without, Jamar Chase coming with him. It's just too fine a needle to thread. So I don't want to take these guys unstacked. Jordan Love, I fully expect him to be the starter for Green Bay this week. All signs are, from everything Matt LaFleur has said, they were kind of targeting bringing him back for this game. That, the practice last week was just to get him acclimated, just to get to him some early work, see how he responded, with the intent of, getting him an extra day of practice on Sunday, and then bringing him back to kind of a full practice workload this week. And again, how much can he ramp up? Is he ready for it? So I think everything was prepping for him to come back this week. And again, big division game. Vikings are undefeated. So, Packers have taken a loss already. You you lose this game, you're down basically 2.5 games. Now you've got another game with them in week 17, but this is a big game for the Packers if they want to, not kind of lose sight of the Vikings in the division race. So I very much think that Jordan Love will be back and will be starting. And then Baker Mayfield, because again, I could see doing a Baker, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin stack. I could see doing Baker, Mike Evans. Don't want to do Baker by himself because, again, you're going to get boxed out by those stacks. And there's no way you want to run into, late or, go into your draft, go into the contest on Sunday and you've got Baker naked and a bunch of teams have Baker and Mike Evans, Baker and Chris Godwin. You're just going to get boxed out by those teams. You can't top those. And then Justin Fields, because, so many questions about the Pittsburgh running game. I don't think they're going to throw. I don't think they're going to have to throw, but if Jalen Warren can't play, if they don't want to, really kind of lean on Najee Harris too much. Obviously, Cordell Patterson would get some work as well, but I think Fields in the running game could be part of their game plan to kind of close out what I expect to be a pretty big win. And then let's talk about the back end receivers that I like. We talked about the mid-tier guys, Ayuk, Godwin, Diggs, Evans, Olave. Drake London has scored a touchdown in the last 2 games. He's much more involved in the passing offense than Kyle Pitts is. So have some interest in him. Garrett Wilson, obviously I like in general, but man, Pat Surtain has just erased some top tier wide receivers. DK Metcalf week 1, George Pickens week 2, Mike Evans last week. Evans just didn't do anything. You would think they're going to try and match him up with Garrett Wilson as much as they can. So Garrett Wilson's kind of a guy. He is kind of falling. He's not going very early. He was in the real early drafts right away when the Battle Royals opened. He was going early, but I think he's kind of dropped off to where you can get him in like the 5th, 6th round now. So I don't hate that, but not a guy I want to have a ton of in my portfolio. Rome Odunze I do like, and DJ Moore, love that matchup with the Rams. Odunze got 11 targets last week. You're starting to see both the prospect profile come through, and we expected, going into the season, rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver. We thought there would probably be a connection there. They worked out in the offseason. I think you're starting to see that. I think you're starting to see Rome Odunze be the guy that Caleb Williams looks to. So I'm liking him going forward and love this matchup this week. Amari Cooper scored 2 touchdowns last week, and Raiders defense is a mess. They're really injured. Christian Wilkins was iffy. Max Crosby was iffy last week, and now they've got injuries now in the secondary. So just not the defense that we expected. So I like Amari Cooper this week. They got to try and get Deshaun Watson figured out, even though that offensive line is so bad. They're so beat up. So I don't love Cooper, but the big play upside is there. Again, as a flyer, this is a guy I could see, as your 6th round kind of flyer flex wide receiver. I like an option. I want to have some exposure. Juwan Jennings, we all know what he did last week. I think this is a game they want Ayuk to get going with, but if they're going to take away Ayuk, then I'm sure they'll go right back to Juwan Jennings. So again, want to have some exposure there. Terry McLaurin, the game script, scored the other day on Monday night. So again, want to have him in there. T. Higgins got back on the field this week, had a few near misses. Again, they'll probably want to get him worked in to the offensive game plan. So I want to have some exposure to Deontay Johnson, and got him going with Andy Dalton, and Adam Thielen went on IR. So he's going to be the focal point of the offense again. Jaden Reed, again, with Jordan Love back in the fold. Remember, Jaden Reed and Jordan Love had huge games against this Brian Flores defense basically 9 months ago. New Year's Eve was that Week 17 game. Love went for 250 and 3 touchdowns. Jaden Reed had one of those touchdowns, had a big game. So I do like him stacked with Jordan Love. And then Devontae Adams. Cleveland's defense just hasn't been hasn't been what people expected, hasn't lived up to their the hype from last year. So we saw what Malik Neighbors did to them, and plays a very similar role to what Davante Adams does. And Gardner Minshew isn't any worse of a quarterback than Daniel Jones is. So I could see Davante Adams putting up a game like Malik Neighbors did last week. A little bit of off the field stuff. The Antonio Pierce calling out the effort of the Raiders, kind of seemingly pointed it at Davante Adams, is really the only one he could have been talking about. So maybe a little bit motivation to kind of get things going there. So I do like Davante Adams, want to have some exposure there as well. And then we'll talk about the injured guys. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Deebo Samuel. I don't think Devonta's playing. That was just a nasty, dirty hit that he took from the Saints. There's almost no chance that he's going to play this week. And then Brown and Deebo, we just haven't really heard anything promising about them playing this week, being ready to go. It's possible that A.J. Brown, maybe by Wednesday, Thursday, when they start practicing, he's back out on the field. Again, the field conditions, he's got a hamstring injury. If the field conditions are really bad from the storm, then they may want to hold him out another week. And then Deebo, again, it sounded like a multi-week injury. So are they going to need him to beat New England? Probably not. So they'll probably, I would expect, give him a week to rest. So again, like the tight ends, not taking a lot of these guys. I'm grabbing a little bit every once in a while, taking an A.J. Brown share, and then kind of purposely not taking an injured tight end, kind of designating that as my swap for the week. But I'm not heavily invested. I've taken 0 Devonta Smith. I don't think I've taken any Deebo so far. So just kind of staying away from the high-end injured guys. I just don't think they are going to be – I don't think they're going to be playing this week. So in the early drafts, I'm willing to kind of wait. And then, if I need to force them later in the week, that's okay. Once we have some more information. So that's it for my rankings this week. Hopefully week 4 goes better than week 3. Week 3 was really rough for me, but DFS and underdog drafts, battle royale drafts. But the thing is, it sounds like it was rough for people kind of around the industry. It was, the content creators, the people who are putting stuff out there. A lot of them had bad weeks. So you kind of look at that and say, okay, maybe it's just a funky week. And then maybe it wasn't just, I was just completely wrong about everything. At least I hope not. So looking forward to a better week. And same for you, wishing you everyone the best. Go out there, make some money. Again, you can find me off of there at the Joel Worth on Twitter. My DMs are open. Always happy to talk. If you've got questions about anything best ball related, hit me up. Always happy to talk best ball. Happy to talk DFS. You can find me live Sunday morning with my buddy Jamison Hutchinson talking DFS. We got a live show on Sunday morning. Always love taking questions and talking anything you need to DFS. Otherwise, subscribe. So much cool content here on IDP Plus and the IDP Bets Network. Love having you. Appreciate the views, and we will see you next week. Good luck in week 4.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.